lead your journey into Cabernet Sauvignon magnificence. Hello, welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick n Pay, and welcome to the CBD of Greyton, the small charming village in the Western Cape. This morning's got a little bit of drizzle and we appear to have hit rush hour. 2 cars have gone by already. I'm not really interested in the traffic or the drizzle because I'm heading inside to Veers, a spot I've been to a couple of times before. They do some terrific coffee, but I'm a little bit more interested in their wine list. It's a wine list that's very small, but it's got some definite attractions, and amongst those attractions is Gabrielskloof, where a little later on in the show I'll be catching up with Peter-Allan Finlayson and finding out how he balances Crystallum, Gabrielskloof and the title Tim Atkin gave him last year of South Africa's top winemaker. First of all, though, we're in Stellenbosch, and the man who looks like he should be on the cover of GQ magazine. It's Schalk-Willem and the story of the Crescendo. It's an early start to the day, but when you happen to be here on the deck overlooking Taaibosch below the Helderberg, it is as good a start to the day as you can hope for, which probably explains, Schalk-Willem, why, despite it being very early, there's such a broad smile in your face. This is the office.
This is the office. It's incredible. I mean, the proximity to the ocean and Table Mountain in distance, it cannot get better.
It's an incredibly special place. It's making an incredibly special wine. You've revived the Crescendo. I know from our past conversations the success of giving a new lease of life to this famous brand has surpassed even your expectations. This is it here, the Taaibosch Crescendo, a wine that's seen much time in glasses in my home. I love it. Tell me about the wine. Tell me about where it comes from.
Basically, behind us you can see we have the 2 Merlot vineyards and the Cabernet Franc. And today is the 21st of March and we're starting to harvest. So really late. Yes.
So what goes into this, and are those grapes actually here with us?
Yes, just behind us. They're picking it at the moment. Very, very small. So it's a two Merlot blocks, 1 Cabernet Franc. Total size 13 hectares, that is it.
Okay, and is there a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon in this as well?
There's a 5% Cabernet Sauvignon. We're actually struggling to ripen Cabernet Sauvignon here. I mean, you can feel the temperature here. It's vastly different to what it is down at the bottom.
All right, so it's a bit of Merlot, a bit of Cabernet Franc, and a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Predominantly Cabernet Franc. That is what we inherited on the farm. These were the grapes that were here, followed by Merlot and then a touch of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Which probably explains why I like it so much. I'm particularly fond of Cabernet Franc. Could we maybe go down, meet the grapes and see how they all come together?
Sure, love to show you.
All right, let's go and do a bit of adventuring in the vineyards. This is such a wonderful time to be in the vineyards because there's such a buzz and energy at harvest time, isn't there?
It's incredible. I mean, you wait a full year for this day. You have to make sure that it's the right day that you are picking, because the wine is born on picking date, and that you can never change.
So this is the Merlot. What role does this play in the Crescendo?
About 40% of the Crescendo. Predominantly part of the Crescendo is the Cabernet Franc, and then we have about 5% Cabernet Sauvignon in the wine.
Okay. And what is this Merlot doing to the wine, structure-wise, flavour-wise?
It gives it a very soft tannin. Merlot normally tends to have a very soft tannin structure, but you can taste the acidity in the wine, so it gives it a bit of length as well, and just making the wine giving a bit more viscosity and roundness in the wine.
So these are ready to go?
These are ready to go.
So that's the Merlot. It's a big part of the Crescendo, but the biggest part is the Cabernet Franc. That's our next stop. So part 2 of the Crescendo, the big part is the Cabernet Franc. Tell me about how you work out when to pick them and what sort of leeway you have.
Well, the day that you decide to pick, it's the day that you form the wine. And especially with Cabernet Franc, you have a window of probably 3 days where it goes from a slightly vegetative state to a confit or overripe stage. You know, today's a public holiday, we're picking. So the grapes are ready. You taste, you have a look at the seed, and you walk the vineyards every single day. See what the vine looks like in the morning compared to the afternoon, because this grape will taste completely different 4 o'clock this afternoon at 40 degrees Celsius, if it gets that warm, compared to this nice crisp morning feel that you have. Your mood is also different in the morning than it is in the afternoon. So you have to live in your vines to understand when to pick and when your grape site is optimum ripeness.
How do you learn that? Where's the textbook? How do you get that feel for now's the time?
It's just been doing it for years and years and years. For every 1 hour I'm spending in the winery, I'm 9 hours in the vineyard.
And I'm not seeing Schalk the winemaker, I'm seeing Schalk the farmer, and so passionate about that.
Yes, I am. For me to grow things actually came naturally. I'm not a good winemaker, but I need good grapes. I really, and I'm blessed and I'm fortunate enough to be standing here underneath the Helderberg with the ocean and Table Mountain just in the back of us, and just look at this. Everything is in balance. The canopy is in balance. The yield to make wine from this is easy.
Let's try these grapes. So we've just had some Merlot. These look ever so slightly smaller, but not massively different. Tell me about this Cabernet Franc.
Chew it. Slightly more tannic. We have a slightly less acidity than we had at the Merlot. The main reason for that is the Merlot is about 150 meters higher than we are right now. But if you chew it, you can feel there's structure in it. Full ripe, there's no green flavors, no pyrrhocene characters, nothing green to it.
And this then forms the backbone of the Crescendo.
This is the backbone of Crescendo, yeah.
And very, very carefully picked. We are 2 grapes down. There's one final little ingredient, and that's a splash of Cabernet Sauvignon. So to the final piece of the puzzle, but before I ask you about that, and before we have a glass of the wine that has been made from these very grapes in previous vintages, you look always so relaxed, so calm. When it comes to this time of the year, these decisions you have to make, how nerve-wracking is that?
I think it's getting worse the older I get. You'd think that after 30 odd vintages that you get quite confident in terms of your picking date, but it's almost as if I start doubting myself even more, because you tend to realize the importance of picking date, because that's one thing that you can never change. The balance, the acidity, the fruit, what I want to express into the wine, that's all determined by picking date.
And that picking date is today for some of the grapes, so you're looking really, really calm. The last wine that goes into this is the Cabernet Sauvignon. So let's grab one of these if we may. Tell me about these little guys.
You see how loose the bunches are. Once again, small grapes, and if you have this in your mouth, much more acidity, structure, feel the tannin. And for me, the 6 to 7% that we add into the Crescendo, once again just giving nice length and structure to the wine, and also helps with ageability.
And then that all comes together and it composes this.
Definitely has a sense of place. Huh? It tastes like Helderberg. It should.
Schalk-Willem, it's been a wonderful education on the art of making the Crescendo and meeting all of your grapes. So thank you. And we look forward to seeing you and these grapes in about 3 years' time when they're sitting in a bottle.
Cheers to that. Thank you, Dan.
So there we go. The 2022 vintage of the Crescendo at Taaibosch. Now you know how it's made. So there we go, Schalk-Willem and the Crescendo, the wonderful story of how that wine comes together in the vineyards of Taaibosch. It's become a fast favourite, and understandably so. Now, this is the inside of Veers. Veers is a very bad place because they've got a waitress here called Andrea who keeps telling me I'm too skinny and I need to eat things like these. And gee, it's a great selection. I might have had one or two, unless of course my wife is watching, in which case I only had the salad and some sparkling mineral water. As I said a little earlier, they've got some wine on the list. It's not a huge wine list, but it's a lovely wine list, and it's got some local favourites, Gabrielskloof amongst them, Peter-Allan Finlayson, and the terrific wine he's making just down the road in Botrefeer. They've also got some local stuff, including this. Now, this is a label I do not know. This is the Delphine wines from here in Greyton, so another good reason to come back and explore. The local optometrist is making wine in his spare time, helping you to see double after a little bit of work on his wines. Looking forward to trying those here at Veer. Not just the wine, not just the food, but a really friendly welcome as well. And that is exactly what I got at Gabrielskloof. We're there a little earlier on in the week. Peter-Allan Finlayson, who's tread an interesting journey under the guidance of his dad, Peter at Taaibosch Finlayson, is now working wonders at Gabrielskloof. It's not just their wine, it's also the Crystallum. How does he balance it all? We found out from the man himself. It's not often that we start a segment of Dan Really Likes Wine with an apology, but one is here required, because when I walked into Gabrielskloof a little earlier on, I went straight up to the resident winemaker, looked him in the eye and said, "Hello, Peter-Allan." Now, I hadn't read my briefing properly. I was supposed to wait, doff my head, and without looking him in the eye, say, "Good morning, Mr. Winemaker of the Year," in the eyes of Tim Atkin, because the celebrity status has grown even greater, Peter-Allan. It's been quite a last stretch for you.
It has been, yeah. I think it's only about another 165 days of Winemaker of the Year. So then, once that's done, then it'll just be
You've been crossing
Mr.
them
Finlayson,
off on the calendar at time.
Yeah.
Well, what's that sort of recognition like, given that you come from a family where there's always going to be such a level of expectation? Finlayson is a South African word for making amazing wine. That's how we know it. And so there would always be expectations. You get that endorsement from somebody like Tim Atkin. What does it mean to you?
No, it really is it really is a lovely endorsement, and you know, it's I think every good winemaker out there, there's always a level of insecurity about how the wines are going to be received every year, and you know, something that we put so much of ourselves into and we love so much. You know, it's it's a great accolade or endorsement, but we also know that there's another vintage or two vintages of wine in the cellar, that have to be as good, if not better, than what he tasted. You know, so there's always pressure that's on one, and it was an incredible accolade. I'm super happy about it, but one's got to look ahead and look at the future, and keeping the quality where it should be.
Is it a benchmark of sorts, and that somebody who didn't always want to be a winemaker had a few different paths to eventually getting into the cellar, that you can now say, you know what, I'm absolutely, I've made it, and the rest of the world knows that too.
Yeah, I mean, also, once again, I don't know if one ever makes it, but look, I think my dad's probably quite relieved. I'm sure he's never expressed it, but I'm sure he was probably quite worried about me at certain points in my not very successful university career and early years of winemaking, which weren't always very successful either. So, but fortunately, it's gone a lot better in the last little while.
It's got better because you've been making some terrific wine, and you've been making wine in two spaces, and that's really what I want to chat to you today about, because out at Gabrielskloof we have wine that has been known for a long time. I think in the last number of years, perhaps coinciding with your arrival, we've definitely seen it take a step up, but you've also got the Crystallum wine, which is a separate label. Talk to me about the art of making both wines and keeping the identity of them individual.
Look, my style of winemaking is very much one that focuses on representing place, representing terroir, representing where the wines are from. So the winemaking is actually quite similar. There will be slight tweaks with each variety, each vineyard, but I wouldn't say there's anything majorly different between Crystallum and between Gabrielskloof. The big difference is the sites and the varieties you're working with, which are totally different. But yeah, that philosophy stays exactly the same.
How about the philosophy of having two brands under the same house? To those not acquainted with mine, I think oh, but surely if you're making the second one, it's going to cannibalize the first and it's going to take away the market share. And yet throughout the wine world, and here in South Africa, you will see a lot of winemakers have the brand they work for, but then also have their own sense of adventure in a separate space. How do those work together?
Yeah, look, it is a bit of a challenge, and it was something that I was quite worried about getting involved in Gabrielskloof, but it's actually worked really, really well. The brands complement each other very well. As I said, we work with totally different varieties. Crystallum is Chardonnay and Pinot. Gabrielskloof is a range of things, but specializing in Syrah and Cabernet Franc and Chenin. So a lot of people we work with in the market, they really love having both brands on because it caters to a whole lot of different people. And I love the challenge. I'm somebody that if I didn't have Gabrielskloof, I would have probably tinkered way too much just with Crystallum, because I've sort of always have this feeling that something's broken. That kind of, I have to be tinkering, I have to kind of change things. So having the challenge of Gabrielskloof has allowed me to keep Crystallum fairly settled, which I think has been a really, really good thing. And overall, it's worked together very, very well.
That inquisitive nature, in part, I'm sure, comes from the DNA and this Finlayson family, of which you're the latest success story. What's the family WhatsApp group like? What are the phone calls like in terms of sharing wine stories and sharing your approach to what you all do?
Look, I think it's partly DNA, but also partly ADHD, and just really not being able to concentrate on one thing for very long. But as far as the family goes, we don't get together that often, but we chat fairly often, and I'll call the different family members for advice on certain things that I feel that they've got good knowledge of and good experience of, and everyone gets along very, very well. And I think there's certainly mutual respect that everyone's been successful. I think one thing the Finlayson have done is start up, many great brands, not always held onto them. But I think we've really had a knack for being creative and starting up new wines, new brands, being innovative winemaking wise, and also just having that legacy to carry on with is something really, really rich, and something that I'm loving being a part of.
The Finlayson legacy now has a home here at Gabrielskloof. You've got a couple of wines here. We're going to have a quick taste on them to get your thoughts. You've got some of your Agnes Chardonnay. Tell us who Agnes was or is, and then a little bit about the wine.
Agnes was my great-grandmother, Agnes Floyd, who came to South Africa as a 14-year-old. She was sent here on a ship on her own to be an au pair. Not much is known behind the reason for that. But she was Eleanor Finlayson's mother, and Eleanor and Morris started Hartenberg together, which was then called Montan, now called Hartenberg, but the same farm. And Hartenberg also make a Chardonnay, obviously called the Eleanor, so now we have the Agnes.
I'm suspecting, having spoken to your father, that there was a time when he would have quite happily put his 14-year-old son on a boat very far away, 7 years thereafter.
I think the problems came sort of between 16 and 25, but I wouldn't have blamed him at 14 either. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the wine.
So it's a multiple vineyard blend, 100% Chardonnay, but from different vineyards, Himalayan, Arda, Elgin, and Ceres. It is lightly wooded. Everything is fermented and aged in oak, but we use a lot of larger format oak, so it really doesn't have much of that kind of buttery, honeyed caramel quality. It's more sort of fresh citrus, a little zesty, but still quintessentially Chardonnay. It's still concentrated. It has lovely acidity. It's a wine that I'm incredibly proud of. It's a 2020 vintage.
It's one you've knitted together from a range of places. So there's
absolutely
a patchwork quilt sense to it in the very best possible way.
Yes, no, that's how I refer to it, as a patchwork quilt. When I'm speaking to 70-year-olds,
Well, it's got a sense of warmth and comfort to it, so it's maybe not entirely off track.
Totally. Well, it also isn't quite at a cold temperature where it should be served. So that might be the warmth and comfort that you're getting.
All right. So that is your Agnes Chardonnay. Let's head over to the Gabrielskloof. And all winemakers speak of their terroir and their sense of place. You make it very clear how important that is simply in the name, and in the Syrah and sandstone. You've also got the shale, the difference that those make on the wines.
So the first year that I made these wines was in 2015, and there was just such a clear distinction between the Syrah that was grown on sandstone soils and the Syrah grown in the shale. So the sandstone is much more rocky, much more free draining. The wine is lighter, more northern Rhone in style, more spicy. more pepper on the wine. And then the shale, there's a lot more clay in the shale soil, and that gives the wine more structure and a kind of a darker fruit profile. So this being the sandstone is that kind of lighter, more spicy version of the Syrah. Made in exactly the same way. So the only difference here is the soil type. Yeah, so lovely freshness in that. Obviously still very complex, but you know, really much in that category of newer, sort of lighter, fresher style of Syrah, rather than your heavy old school Shiraz.
It's a mark of a good winemaker, your ability to operate in different spaces, to be comfortable with different grapes, varietals, and they're coming together. You now have to do that not only for the expectation that comes with the wine you've made in the past, but now with your grand title. So what's the next stretch looking like for Peter-Allan at Gabrielskloof and with Crystallum?
Yeah, just trying not to crash and burn, really. You know, this. You know, I continuously feel like a bit of an imposter in the industry, and you know, I don't have a winemaking degree, which I'm sure you're aware of. It's something that I've learned over time, and yeah, just trying to maintain the standards that we've set. I absolutely love being able to do this. Feel very fortunate to be able to do, you know, have the Crystallum brand, be involved in Gabrielskloof. You know, this is an incredible place to make wine, you know, be it Hemel Ade or the lesser known Bot River. But just to maintain, we've got some new vineyards in the pipeline. You know, we're always trying to figure out how to make things better, you know, using some alternative vessels like amphora for fermentation and aging, which we've done for Sauvignon Blanc, and we're going to start using in reds now as well. So yeah, there's quite a few things in the pipeline. Yeah.
I've got no doubt there are. The wines, as expected, are a delight, as is the company. Congratulations again on that accolade. It was very well deserved. And we look forward to more adventures from a star member of the Finlayson dynasty.
Wonderful. Thank you.
There we go. Gabrielskloof in Bot River, under the guiding hand of Peter-Allan Finlayson. It's an inspiring story. Peter-Allan Finlayson comes from winemaking aristocracy, hasn't trodden the regular path, but now delivering terrific wine, and really Gabrielskloof so worth a visit at the moment, particularly with their new restaurant. Look out for that coming soon. In the interim, there's a restaurant, an eatery right here in the heart of Greyton. I've been many times to Greyton, particularly with the Absa Cape Epic, and the charm and the welcome is always consistent. It's a terrific place to come and visit. And this in particular, if you want to fill up on some of their food, try out some of their wine. It's a lovely little spot. Don't forget to enter this month's competition. It is the chance to head off to Franschhoek to join Darren Badenhorst at Le Coin Francais, a 5-course meal, 4 people, vintage Bellingham wines. And all you need to do, jump onto our social media platforms, tell us why you should be the person to come and join us. That's all for this week. Big thank you to the team at Viers for hosting us here in Greyton. We'll see you back again next week. Happy drinking.